So it's been 2 weeks and you still haven't gotten it done. Or maybe you have. I don't really know. But it's been 2 weeks since the WCRI conference recently held in Boston. If just a real friendly reminder, if there were things that you were supposed to follow up with, conversations you had, business cards you got from someone, or a task you were supposed to do, and if you haven't done it yet, just get that in your calendar today and get that taken care of. I'm Michael Stack with Amaxx, and today I want to give you some highlights and recap from that recent conference, from the notes that I took and the perspective that I had on it. Real quick, just personal story. It's been an exciting couple of weeks for me since that conference. My family and I think some people know that we moved up to Kennebunkport, Maine just last year. And we tried to buy a house, and there was all kinds of challenges. The inspection was a challenge, and there was all sorts of other things going on, and it just didn't work out. So we had to move into a short-term rental, and we finally closed on our new house just last Friday. So we're super pumped. It was a great, exciting weekend. The kids are pumped, the family's pumped, and the kids took the bus from the new house today. I was trying to look for my suits this morning, and I couldn't find them. So no suit coat today. So let's talk about this conference. So there's 4 sessions that I want to cover here. First one was the impact of the 2016 election. There was really 2 main points they talked about, and the guests were former Senator Tom Colburn, who is a Republican persuasion, and former U.S. House of Representatives Henry Waxman, which was a Democratic persuasion. Very strong and polarizing opinions. 2 main topics that he talked about. I'm going to try to run through this as quickly as I possibly can and summarize it to hit the main points. So I broke it down into really 2 main topics. It was Trump they talked about, and they talked about the ACA. Now, I know a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks with the ACA and the Republicans presenting their new plan. I'm not a hugely political guy, so I'm not going to talk about really what those recent events are. It's out of my area of expertise. But I will cover what they talked about at that conference itself. So first top thing they talked about was Trump, and there was 2 things they talked about, was really executive orders that he did. He implemented a lot of executive orders after coming into office, and then really this relationship of Congress. And the question really with this executive orders, and the first point that they hit during that discussion was one of those orders that whenever a new regulation is implemented, 2 regulations have to be abolished. So 1 implemented, 2 abolished. They weren't sure what that impact would have. Second thing was really this relationship with Congress. And I think it's something everyone in Washington is kind of watching and trying to kind of figure out how this is going to work between the executive branch and the Congress. One thing that they did talk about, and really there was this fear, and Congressman Waxman talked about this, was there was this fear that Trump was just going to defer to Congress, and rather than sort of driving the ship as maybe past presidents have. There was a fear to defer to Congress. But then in the same sort of conversation, they talked about really how they felt that power, and Senator Colburn was talking about this, how power has shifted too much to the executive branch, and how these laws are written, and there'll be these big, thick laws, and the Congress men and women are passing these laws, and they don't understand even what every stipulation has to impact, what the impact will be, or even what it is itself. And there'll be a lot of words that will say, well, whatever the secretary deems appropriate. And so they felt like too much power was being given to the executive branch. So that was basically this sort of discussion, and it was very talked about a lot of different political opinions. It was a very interesting discussion, but those were the main points regarding Trump and the Congress relationship. Next, they moved into the ACA, and they were talking about this. Again, very political discussion. Senator Colburn with a Republican persuasion and Congressman Waxman with a Democratic persuasion. They was basically boil it down to 2 things in as simple as possible. Senator Colburn said, we need freedom. People need freedom. We need a free marketplace. He referenced the Amish community a number of different times. And he talks about how the Amish buy healthcare, and they buy it for cash. They go in and negotiate the best price with the best providers and pay a significantly lower price by negotiating up front in a free market type system. Congressman Waxman said the safety net is going to be slashed, and he quoted Trump and said it's going to be a disaster. So you know how this ACA discussion goes. Very heated, very interesting to hear their perspectives, and a lot has even happened in the last couple of weeks since that presentation. So that was kind of very political, didn't have much impact on work comp during this discussion. So the meat of the work comp discussion was talking about this Department of Labor report. So this report was issued back in October of 2015. There were 8 congressmen and women that signed this and said, we're worried about work comp and the amount of benefits that have been reduced and how it's taking from SSDI, and we need to have a renewed interest from the federal government in work comp. Very big concern for us in our industry of what that's going to impact. So the question was asked was, now that this new administration is in place, is this sentiment or is this fear still the same? And it was an almost comical response. And they said, we got a lot going on. Work comp industry, great. We love you guys, but you're just not that important. And we have a lot of other things on our plate in Washington that we really don't think we're going to be getting or having any interest in the work comp industry. So very short and almost comical response to this Department of Labor report and the federal government's potential interest in the work comp industry.